Coach, why don't you start off the call before we start taking questions about recapping your season? And then when the news came down in mid-March, it was between the diving championships for the NCAAs and then the swimming part of the championship. So if you can recap those two parts of the season, and then we'll start taking questions.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you for having me today. For us in the swimming and diving program, this season was a really exciting season for us as we moved into our new facility that has long been awaited for both the community and WVU. So we started out the season in our old natatorium and made a lot of priorities in our transition to the new facility. Our men's team had I think a very strong season. Our first dual meet was our only loss of the season. We added some new teams to the meet schedule this year, and we got to travel down and compete against SMU, and we had a real solid meet there. And our women's program had a very solid season as well. We went undefeated in the Big 12, and then, Brian, as you mentioned, we got to the conclusion of our season, and we hosted, during the season, we hosted our first mid-season invite, and then we hosted the Big 12 championships at the end of February. And both those were very successful meets for not only us, but for the teams that came. And at our conference meet, at the Big 12 meet, about a week and a half later, we learned that two of our swimmers, Hunter Armstrong and David Dixon, had been invited to the NCAA championships. And then Coach Mike Greitner and his program hosted the zone diving championships a little over a week later after our Big 12 championships. And out of that, we had two more young men qualify, and those were the first divers to qualify for NCAAs, I believe, in maybe over 30 years. So that was really exciting for Mike and his program moving forward. And so we had four men qualify for NCAAs, and we were in the midst of training for getting our travel arrangements ready and training and preparing these young men. And then, as everybody knows, the news came down that first it was the men's basketball tournament, and then very shortly after, there was discussion of maybe hosting the NCAAs with nobody in the stands. And then I think it was midweek or by Thursday of that week, it was informed that all NCAA championships for the winter sports had been canceled. So that was a little difficult. Obviously, these young men and women put in so much time and effort to get to that level and to have the opportunity to compete. Was a disappointment, but it was something that we dealt with and just moving forward.
All right, Vic, thanks. Your first question here comes from Greg Hunter. Greg, go ahead.
So, Vic, stick with the Aquatic Center. Obviously, as you said, just recently opened. What's it meant in terms of training, in terms of the ability to host meets, obviously the Big 12, and then recruiting?
Sure. Well, I'll take your last part first. The Aquatic Center on recruiting has actually been impactful for the past couple of years. I mean, once they put a hole in the ground, we were taking our recruits out to the facility and showing them the progress. And so it's been a big, huge benefit for our recruiting. In regards to the Aquatic Center and what it's done for the team, we're very, very blessed to have a facility like this. And probably the biggest aspect that people don't realize or didn't realize, programs like ours, when we were in an 8-lane facility and you're a combined men and women's program, you don't get to train together as a team. You have certain groups coming in on certain days and certain times, and in the afternoon you have a couple different training groups and start times. Typically for us, we'd have a 2 o'clock group and a 3:30 group at the natatorium. So when we moved into the new facility at Milan Park, the biggest benefit that we both as a staff and a team saw was being able to arrive as a team, train as a team, and leave as a team. And that really helped build our cohesiveness and our culture as we move forward.
Your next question comes from Kevin Kender. Go ahead, Kevin.
Vic, following up on the training together as a team angle, I mean, people tend to think of swimming as an individual sport other than some of the relays. But what are some of those benefits of training as a team, even for the individual swimmers and not having to do the split up by groups?
Sure. So you are correct. Swimming is a very individual sport, but at the collegiate level, they see a little bit of it at the high school level, and they see a little bit of it at the club level. But at the collegiate level, it's the most team our sport is going to become. Yes, we have individuals, but each individual has an impactful role. Each individual has a chance to, in a dual meet, to score a point. A couple of our dual meets came down to 5-10 points. I think our women lost to Villanova by under 10 points. So being able to train as a team and not in those separate groups has been a huge impact, because you have people that swim different events and have people that swim similar events, and you're able to have those guys train. Maybe you have some people that are backstrokers that are more specific to the shorter backstroke events, maybe 50 or the 100, versus someone that's more of a 200 backstroker. And we were able to put those guys and ladies together all at the same time and have them work out together. So, and then just the fact that you're with your teammates, being able to support your teammates as you go through difficult practice, or as you go through the week, having everybody again coming and going at the same time, being able to have team meetings that aren't disruptive to the training. We're able to place them in at a better time. So overall, it's just been a good benefit.
All right, your next question from Greg Hunter. Go ahead, Greg.
So Vic, back to the meets. What'd you find out in hosting the Big 12s? Obviously, the biggest meet I think WVU's certainly ever hosted. And what are your hopes for the future in hosting other major events?
Sure. Well, I mean, every year, or not every year, but with the new facility, every meet has become a new opportunity to learn and get better at it. That's why we ran our midseason invite, knowing that we were hosting the Big 12s in February to help work out some of the kinks. And just learned yesterday that the Big 12 has decided on a rotation between us and Texas. So Texas will host the Big 12 championships next year in 2021, and then we'll have it back in 2022, and that'll be the rotation for the Big 12. So we'll be hosting the Big 12 championships on even years. And then you just learn, I call it a living building. It's getting to be more and more of a living building every year or every month. And the staff over there has been great. They've worked really hard to do everything we need to do to host these types of meets. And as we move forward, I think Mike is hosting the regional zone championships again next year for diving, and eventually down the line, we would love to get into the process of hopefully hosting NCAAs.
All right, your next question from John Antonik. Go ahead, John.
Got on here a little bit late, but curious, I know you talked about when the facility opened, the momentum you were going to get from recruiting from that. Has there been a pause with the virus, or have you still been able to capitalize on that momentum?
Yeah, there's definitely been a pause, and that, a couple things on that have impacted us. A year ago, our sport was, our recruiting rules changed to where we were able to start contacting juniors June 15th after their sophomore year. So a lot of our year this season has been working with those juniors and communicating with those juniors. And we had a good fall recruiting, and we have some commitments, and then we had a big group coming in April. And unfortunately, in talking with them, they're asking us, when and how we're going to get them on campus. And unfortunately, we just don't know that answer right now. So we're staying in touch with the recruits, letting them know what's going on in the processes. And, but I think we're not the only program or the only sport across the country that is having to figure out a different way to recruit. As we're seeing now, states are having different levels of reopening. So we may be talking to somebody, in a state that is open and can get here, where another one of our recruits may be in a state where it's still closed down and we can't get them here. So I think you're going to see a process of a couple months before we can get back to the normal recruiting cycle and getting the kids on campus and showing them what WVU has to offer.
Next question from Greg Hunter. Go ahead, Greg.
So, Vic, what was recruiting like when you had to try to bring them into the the natatorium? And are you with a whole different level of recruit now that you have a full facility that's obviously sparkling new?
Sure. Well, when we were recruiting at the natatorium, I mean, at the end of the day, you always highlight the things that you do well. And out of the natatorium, we were getting kids to NCAAs, and we were competing well in the Big 12 conference, and we were getting kids to their international and national level championship meets. And then when we moved into the aquatic center at Milan Park, it just opens up. I mean, for us, it's not an NCAA event or distance, but 50-meter being able to train long course is a huge impact for many of our student athletes because of the international competitions that are held. We had several kids this spring that were heading back for their national championships to try and qualify for their Olympics. So being able to have a 50-meter course and be able to train long course is a huge benefit. And then yes, our recruiting has definitely changed, and the type of athlete that we're being able to show our facility to and show our results to has changed.
Next question here from John. Go ahead, John.
Along those lines, we were talking to Neil Brown yesterday, and he said one of the things that they're doing is taking the campus to athletes, virtual tours and things like that. You have a really good tell with your facility. Have you considered doing some of that, try to bring the campus to them, know what you offer?
Yeah, we can't start talking to our new recruits until June 15th. So most of the recruits that we've already been in communication with over the last year, the first thing we do is we have been sending them it used to be the diagrams, then it was the pictures, and now we're sending them, the aquatic center, which as soon as we get them on campus, we get them out there and show them the aquatic center and what we have. And then in our normal recruiting emails, we do, first things we try to find out is what they're interested in studying. And then we give them links to that school. We put them in connection with the visitor center. And so most of the kids that we've already communicated with have seen the campus either virtually or have been here on campus. When we start in June with our juniors for the 2022 class, that's exactly what we'll be doing. We'll be starting again. We were hopeful to have a camp this year, and of course, USA Swimming meets bring kids into the facility that you're able to show your facility at a younger age and things of that nature. So those things have changed, and hopefully as we get back to some sort of normalcy, those meets will return. We'll be able to get them on campus.
Your next question here comes from Greg Hunter. Go ahead, Greg.
So, Coach, I assume almost all your athletes have scattered back to their hometowns like all the other sports and students at WVU, but most pools are closed. How do you train right now as a swimmer when you can't swim?
Well, most of our student athletes have returned home. We do have a few here on campus as well. And we're sending out daily dry land practices. The main thing that we're trying to work on is keeping them active and getting them into some sort of daily schedule, so that they're able to return as best they can. But yes, swimming is a different sport where once you're in the water, it's a little different. So what I've been talking to the kids about, and what we feel is kind of an exciting thing about it, is when we do get back, we will be able to kind of get back all on the same level and start from there as a group and move forward. I've already told the kids we're hopeful to be opening up here in the next 6 weeks and be able to have kids that are here in Morgantown in the pool. So we've told them we're not going to compete this summer. We're going to spend the summer working on our technique and stroke and building them back up gradually as far as distance and aerobic capacity and getting them ready for the fall.
All right, your next question from Joe Mitchin. Joe, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned Hunter qualifying for NCAAs as a freshman this year. It's the second time in 3 years now you've had a freshman do that. Does that kind of speak on maybe an uptick of kids coming into the program that are, either immediately college ready, or maybe it's the philosophy that you have, it proves to be working?
Well, probably a little bit of everything. I think, we're really excited about our incoming freshman class on both sides. And yes, I think the type of athlete that is looking at our program now is seeing the longevity of our results here. We missed an NCAAs here or there, but we're pretty consistent at getting to NCAAs. So, and then, the staff has done a great job the past year and a half to 2 years of really, finding our needs, what we need to do, and then finding the athletes that can come in and help us right away.
All right, a reminder, if you have a question, use the raise hand feature. If not, this will be our last question. Go ahead, Kevin Kender.
Coach, have you been talking to other coaches, for ideas on, how to communicate, work out things like that? And then this is kind of a fun question. Of the ones you've talked with, who has the best quarantine haircut right now?
A lot of my communication is through phone call or text. I haven't been doing a lot of Zoom meetings with other coaches, but yes, I've been reaching out and we've been talking a little bit about what we're doing and how we're doing it here or how they're doing it there. And the main thing that we've been focused on, and what I told the team, is sure this is a unique and different situation for everybody across the world. And we want to take this time to find out and take this opportunity to learn what we can do to make ourselves better as individuals, make ourselves better as teammates, and make ourselves better as a program. So we started a few weeks ago. We're doing class meetings, and each member of the staff meets with them weekly. We've had various topics. We're not doing them this week because of the dead week, and next week because of finals, but various topics. And then we do a team meeting at the end of the week where all the classes come together and we kind of discuss it as a team, so that we again are just kind of moving forward. The difference right now, unfortunately, is the spring training season is quite fun. It's a little more relaxed, and they've all missed that, and they've all, we're looking at what we can do to come out of it. So the main thing is we're just trying to communicate with them, once a week, letting them know what we can do. Sent out an email today about kids that are moving out on campus, so we're just getting the information out to them as best we can and as fast as we can. But really, we're just sharing ideas with other coaches, and then the main thing is communicating with our student athletes, letting them know what we're doing and trying to do the best that we can. I think the uncertainty for everybody kind of creeps in, and the uncertainty for them right now is what are we doing, and we try to answer those questions as best we can.
All right, you have one last question here from Greg Hunter. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, last one for me, Vic. And I know your family's been involved with the youth swimming aspect in Morgantown in the past. And again, sort of the new facility question. How's the community accepted the facility, and what's it done for those type of programs like, your wife's led in the past?
Sure. Well, again, I think, what I've noticed as far as how it's impacted the community on many Saturdays. I'm not typically there on Sunday, but on many Saturdays, the community pool has been very well attended and used. So I think that's a huge benefit as far as how it's impacted the community on the age group level. And my wife is the general chair for West Virginia Swimming, and so she's actually been having weekly meetings on several levels with USA Swimming and then all the coaches here. And the facility's been a great resource. We were supposed to hold the West Virginia Short Course Championships in March. In fact, I think we were one of the last LSCs in the country to finally give in and shut the meet down. But the benefit's been really good. Our program, the Club Mountaineer Aquatics program, has grown. I know from the Aquatic Center side, their lessons and program is going really well. And I think overall, we're just going to see it grow more and more inside the community.